Every story leaves a trace. Even when a man tries to hide, his life reveals itself in the smallest of details. Many women believe that the truth about a man comes from what he says, but in reality, it often comes from what he does not say. Silence and inconsistency tell more than promises ever could. The first sign that a man is married is the invisible wall he builds around his time. At first, it feels normal. He says he is busy, he cancels plans, he answers late at night instead of during the day, but if you look closely, you realize that his availability follows a pattern that does not belong to you. His life is divided, and you are only given the fragments he can spare. Carl Jung often reminded us that what a person avoids reveals more than what they admit. A married man cannot give you his full time because his time is already claimed. He will never be completely free on weekends. He will always be vague about holidays. He will disappear when family duties call, offering explanations that sound rehearsed. His schedule is not his own, and so the rhythm of his presence becomes irregular, filled with gaps he cannot explain. For a woman, this pattern is easy to excuse in the beginning. You tell yourself that he is busy with work, that he values his independence, that he is not ready for commitment. But the unconscious always senses the truth. You feel the distance even if you cannot name it. You feel the wall even if you try to ignore it. His divided time becomes the first silent confession that you are not the only one. The danger is that women often mistake this inconsistency for mystery. Instead of recognizing the red flag, they romanticize it. They convince themselves that his absence makes him more valuable, that his unpredictability is a sign of depth. In truth, it is not depth, it is division. His heart is not free, and his time reflects it. This first sign is the most important to notice because time is love's greatest currency. A man who cannot give you consistent time cannot give you consistent love, and no amount of words or gifts can replace that. If he is married, his time will always belong to someone else first, and you will always be left waiting for what remains. Jung believed that patterns hold the key to truth. Look at a man's time and you will see where his devotion lies. If you notice this first sign, his divided schedule, his constant excuses, his inability to offer you the fullness of his presence, do not ignore it. This is not mystery. This is a confession. To recognize this sign is to protect yourself. It is to understand that love cannot survive on fragments. You deserve more than pieces of someone else's life. You deserve a man whose time is open, presence is consistent, whose devotion is whole. A man's time is like a mirror. If you want to know where his loyalty lies, look not at what he says, but at how his hours are spent. Words can be shaped, promises can be polished, but time cannot be faked. Time always tells the truth. When a man is married, even if he hides the ring, his schedule will betray him. His life is no longer his alone. He belongs to a rhythm that includes another person, another home, another set of commitments. He cannot answer your call whenever you want. He cannot appear in your life without explanation. He cannot freely plan his future with you. His availability is fractured because his reality is divided. This is why Jung said that the unconscious always leaves traces. A married man may try to act as though he is single, but the truth leaks out in the way he manages his time. You notice the late-night messages that arrive only when the house is quiet. You notice the sudden silences during weekends or holidays. You notice how his excuses are always wrapped in urgency. A family visit, an unexpected event, a demand he cannot ignore. These patterns are not coincidences. They are the shadow of another life bleeding into yours. At first, many women do not want to see it. They tell themselves he is ambitious, that work consumes him, that he values his independence. The mind creates justifications to protect the heart from disappointment. But the body knows. You feel the tension every time he cancels. You feel the hollowness every time his absence stretches longer than his presence. You feel the sting of realizing that you are always adjusting to his world, while he never adjusts to yours. Time divided is love divided. This is the first sign, and it is the one that reveals the truth more clearly than anything he says. A man who cannot give you his consistent presence is a man who cannot give you his consistent love. Think of a fire. It does not stay alive with occasional sparks. It survives only with steady fuel. In the same way, love cannot survive on fragments of borrowed time. If all you ever receive are the scraps of his schedule, you are not receiving love. You are receiving an illusion. This illusion is powerful because it feeds on hope. Every time he makes time for you, you feel special, chosen, prioritized. But look deeper. Is he giving because he is free, or is he giving only what is left after another? Woman has already received the whole. The truth is painful but liberating. If his time is divided, so is his devotion. Jung believed that what we avoid looking at becomes the source of our suffering. If you ignore the first sign, you enter a path of waiting. You wait for him to call. You wait for him to choose. You wait for the day he will finally be free. But waiting is not love. Waiting is self-abandonment. You put your life on hold for a man who has already promised his to someone else. The emotional cost is heavy. You begin to doubt your worth, asking why you are never first. You silence your own needs to avoid pressuring him. You accept crumbs of attention and call them enough. Over time, this changes you. You become smaller, quieter, more patient than you were meant to be. And all because his time told you the truth, but you refused to listen. The unconscious, however, keeps whispering. Deep inside, you know when a man is not fully yours. You know when his absence outweighs his presence. You know when his excuses are not just about work, but about a life he does not confess. The question is not whether you see it, but whether you are willing to admit it. The first sign is simple but profound. Divided time is divided love. And no woman, no matter how patient, can build a life on fragments. Before we continue, if you have ever felt confused by the hidden patterns of attraction and wanted to understand why certain people seem to pull you in without explanation, the Jung method can help. In just a few steps, it reveals the unconscious forces shaping your choices and gives you clarity to protect your heart. The link is pinned in the first comment. The second sign that a man is married is found, not in his time, but in his words and behavior when intimacy approaches. Married men reveal themselves in the way they handle questions, the way they share or refuse to share personal details, and the way they carry secrecy like a shadow. Jung believed that truth always lives in symbols, gestures, and contradictions. What a person tries to hide leaks out through their smallest behaviors. A married man often avoids certain topics. He is vague about where he lives, evasive when you ask about his weekends, hesitant to make plans too far ahead. His words may be charming, but there is always something missing. He talks about feelings without giving you a future. He offers affection without offering a path. This hesitation is not random. It is the unconscious trying to protect the double life he carries. He knows he cannot give you the fullness of himself, so he distracts you with fragments. He flatters, but does not confess. He listens, but does not reveal. He makes you feel seen, but never fully lets you see him. And if you look closely, you notice the cracks, sudden pauses when you ask about his family, shifting eyes when the topic of marriage comes up, inconsistencies in the stories he tells. This is the second sign. His words are carefully edited, his intimacy filtered. A man who is free does not fear being known. A man who is bound speaks in half-truths because the whole truth would expose him. At first, many women confuse this secrecy with depth. They imagine he is private, mysterious, or cautious because of past wounds. They give him the benefit of the doubt, believing that his silence is a form of protection rather than a symptom of deception. But mystery that never resolves is not depth, it is distance. And distance is the mark of a life that cannot be shared. Jung wrote that what remains unconscious will rule your life and you will call it fate. This is exactly how secrecy works. You feel his hesitations, you sense the missing pieces, but instead of listening to your intuition, you interpret it as fate. You tell yourself that the bond is rare, that destiny has placed him in your path, that the difficulties only prove the connection is real. But in truth, the missing pieces are warnings, not proofs. They are signs pointing to a truth you do not want to face. The second sign reveals itself, especially in moments of vulnerability. A married man cannot integrate you fully into his life, so he keeps you in the shadows. He cannot introduce you to friends. He cannot invite you openly to his home. He cannot speak of a shared future. Instead, he creates a private world where you exist only in silence. And while this may feel intimate at first, over time it becomes suffocating. You realize that your relationship lives in hiding, and that hiding is not love, it is confinement. Many women who have experienced this dynamic describe the same pattern. The conversations feel intense, but shallow at the same time. He seems to know them deeply, yet they know little about him. He gives emotional closeness in words, but withholds practical closeness in life. This imbalance is exhausting because it tricks the heart into believing intimacy is growing when in reality, the relationship is stalled. The unconscious feels the weight of this secrecy. You begin to notice the frustration, the doubts, the way you silence your questions to avoid breaking the illusion. But love that cannot face questions is not love. It is projection, fantasy, a construction held together by silence, and the cost of ignoring this second sign is as heavy as ignoring the first. A woman who accepts half-truths begins to doubt her right to know the whole truth. She convinces herself that she is asking for too much, that patience will eventually open the door. But the door never opens, because it was never hers to walk through. This is why the second sign is so critical. Words that avoid, behaviors that hide, intimacy that exists only in fragments. All of these reveal a marriage he does not confess. The pattern is unmistakable once you stop romanticizing it. His hesitation is not caution. It is proof that his life is already claimed. The lesson is clear. When a man is free, his life is open, his time is steady, and his words are whole. But when he is married, you feel the fracture in both. His schedule is divided, and his intimacy is guarded. These two signs together are enough to protect you from years of confusion, waiting, and heartbreak. The truth is that no woman deserves to live in fragments. You were not born to be a secret. You were not created to survive on excuses. You were not meant to give your heart to someone who cannot give you theirs in return. Jung taught that wholeness is the goal of the soul. To fall for a married man is to step into division. To recognize the signs, however, is to step back into your own wholeness. It is to choose yourself before you lose yourself. So watch carefully, notice his time, notice his words. These two things will tell you everything you need to know. And if you have the courage to believe what you see, you will never again hand your heart to someone who is never free to hold it. Asterisk. Many women describe this second sign as a kind of fog. At first, it feels exciting, as if you are slowly uncovering a secret. But over time, you realize the fog never lifts. He always says just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to give you certainty. This is not mystery. This is a strategy of survival. His half-truths are not about protecting his heart, but about protecting his double life. And yet, the heart wants to believe. You tell yourself that he is simply careful, that his silence is because he has been hurt before, that he needs more time to trust. But months pass, sometimes years, and the pattern does not change. His stories remain vague, his answers remain thin, and his presence remains hidden. What you thought was temporary becomes permanent. The truth is not that he needs more time. The truth is that his time and his truth already belong to someone else. Carl Jung often said that what is denied on the surface grows stronger in the shadow. This is exactly what happens here. The more you ignore the evasions, the more your own confusion grows. You begin to doubt your intuition, silencing the voice inside that says something is wrong. But deep down, you know. You always know. The second sign does not lie. The hardest part is realizing that every unanswered question is, in itself, an answer. Every vague reply, every story that changes, every detail that feels incomplete is a confession without words. A man who truly wants to be known does not hide in fog. He stands in the light. To see this clearly is painful, but it is also freeing. Because once you name the second sign for what it is, you can finally stop waiting for the fog to clear and choose instead to walk into the light yourself.